Number one, I would be absorbing information from every direction because it all does affect what's happening in the local economy. We saw that the market was topping about a year ago, and so we said, let's take a look at our portfolio, and we're going to trim the weakest link. You know, a mantra, and I tell this to young brokers who come and talk to me, my kids know this backwards and forwards, is, you know, the mantra of, you know, live like you're poor and invest like you're rich.
Sure. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. Beyond the Blueprint, welcome back. I'm your host, Branson Bowen, and today we're sitting down with Miguel De Arcos, with the managing partner of Central Parc Group. Miguel, thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely, Branson. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
for having me.
we're gonna kind of, we're in our 30th episode or close to it. We've had a few developers, and so I'm very honored to have you and honored to be able to know you throughout the years and even get to work with your son too. So that was
right. Still owe you for that one. Thank you.
That was kind of interesting. So we'll kind of jump right into it and just kind of get to know who you are, where you come from and what you're about, and we'll let you take it from there.
Well, first, I just want to say I have gone back and listened to some of your podcasts. You do a very good job.
Thank you.
You're good leading questions. Keep the conversation flowing.
Thank you.
So congratulations. Is that enough?
Yeah.
You want me to say more? Is that okay?
That's a good enough
We're
plug.
good? All right. I actually came up, grew up in Miami, and I came up to got a scholarship to play baseball at the Country Club of Winter Park over here, Rollins College. And it was great. Met my wife right out of college. Been married 20 years now. So we did get started a little bit early, but got a great job with a Fortune 10 company right out of college. And I learned very quickly I couldn't be behind a desk my whole life. Yeah. The harder you work didn't mean you were necessarily making more money. You couldn't force yourself to get ahead. There's a hierarchy. So it wasn't for me.
The bigger the desk and the bigger the office.
Bingo. Bingo. And so during that 2 years that I was there, I had bought a couple of small little residential houses, which kind of all stemmed back from the day I graduated. My dad came up and said, hey, listen, it's too late for me, but it's not for you. And he handed me that purple book that we all know so well. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So This is going back over 20 years back. And I read it, and the more I read it, the more I couldn't sit behind a desk. It was like I could take my future into my own hands. So I dabbled with some houses. I can't do this anymore. Got a real estate license. While I was still with this big firm, I took a weekend, and I got this referral to sell a house. So I go in, meet this woman who's down scouting for her husband, who's a CEO of something moving down. And they bought the house. They closed in 30 days. It was like an $8,000 check. And I said, this is fantastic. This is great money. But I don't think I can ever sell a house again. That was, I wanted to claw my face out. It was, I'm business, I'm numbers. I'm like, this checks every box, the square for everything you wanted. And she's like, yeah, but the carpet and the drapes. And I said, okay, this isn't for me. I'm going into commercial. So I quit my job, which was a shock to everybody because we had just had infants, like babies, twins. And I said, if I'm going to make a move and break out, I got to do it now because as soon as we get too deep in with them, we won't be able to. So I didn't know anything. We're living in Lake Mary, Florida. And I hung my license with a residential agency. They were very big. They had 300 agents between multiple offices, but there really wasn't much of a commercial team. It was all residential, but kind of taught myself commercial real estate. And I said, since I don't want to sell houses, I'm actually going to go market myself as a commercial agent, but I'm not going to do it in the market because I don't know what I'm doing. And I went around and I started sending flyers to all 300 agents inside their office saying, you send me your commercial leads and I'll give you a referral fee and I'll send you any residential leads that I get. And they said, great. We don't want to do that. We want to sell houses. And I said, great. Do you know how to do that? I said, no, but I'll figure it out. Don't worry about that. So within 2-3 years, I had a team of 5 working for me. We were building out this commercial division, but I still get, even after all the success we had, and we were doing very, very well, especially with that niche market up there, when I would call the big brokerage houses, CB Richard Ellis at the time and Cushman and Wakefield. I don't even know if JLL was in the market just yet, but we would get kind of like, oh, here's one of these residential guys or whatever. I'm like, no, that's all we do is commercial real estate. Yeah, okay.
That stigma still
yeah,
sticks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I went to the ownership, and I basically said, hey, listen, we have doubled the top income production level, not 1 year, not 2 years, but we're about to do it for the third year. So here's what I need. I'm growing my team. I have 2 more people that want to come on. All these guys that I talk to, they talk about these tools that they have. Can you buy some of those? No. Okay. Could you get me an admin for my team so I can take on more people and keep bringing in deals? No. Okay. Would you raise my split? No. I'm like, okay, I got to go. I got to get started on my career. I'm 28 at the time. So 29 years old, I reached out. Am I going to go to CB Richard Ellis? Am I going to call these big dogs? We had a book. We were doing $100-200 million in sales. I didn't really want to go to a big firm and start over, but I didn't know what to do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to open my own office, and looked around and found Sperry Van Ness at the time, SVN, and opened the first office for them. They had tools and systems, and that was their whole platform. And I said, yes, that's what I want. So
that's what I've been asking for.
It's what I've been dying for. So it was great. Opened the office October 2007. Had a great year in 2007 already lined up. Great year in 2008 already lined up. What I didn't do is pick my head up and look around to see what was happening macro in the environment. And so sure as heck, that 2008 didn't bother me because I had some big deals that ended up closing that year. But just nothing was happening. Everything was grinding to a halt. The financial spigot was literally being turned off. Sellers weren't selling. Buyers couldn't buy. Banks weren't even able to foreclose because they didn't have the capital reserves to do it. It was a nightmare. And I had just opened my office in late October 2007. Big shooter. I'm going to buy the office. I got all these agents. I'll pay for everything. And then it went to, okay, I made $10,000 in 2009. I own the office. I have all these agents. I have all my personal stuff, big house, the cars. So got a little bit out in front of my skis.
Yeah.
And it was tough. And I just remember sitting down on the couch with my wife, like, are we going to have to sell the house now? What are we going to do? And she looked at me and said, okay, what would you do if you could do anything and money was not the issue? And I said, I would do this. I love commercial real estate. She goes, okay, we'll tighten our belts and we'll get through it. And it gave me the confidence to stick it out. Like, my wife's not going to leave me over me completely putting us 10 feet under in debt. And we did. And, I told her, I said, don't worry, I will never, ever, ever put us in this situation again. I'm going to do everything differently going forward. So, fast forward, we started doing a bunch of distressed asset work, which is funny stories. That was the only thing you could do at the time because it was workouts and distressed assets.
That's what I was about to ask is, like, why distressed assets? Was that something that was, like, very strategic?
So I give all credit to Sperry Van Ness and a gentleman named Jerry Anderson over there who started to put together in 2008 and definitely in 2009 because the writing was on the wall. The volumes were down nationally, that we're going to put together a distressed asset team. And he called me and said, we love you. We want you on this national team. And we're going to go talk to the Goldman Sachs and the Starwoods and all these guys that are buying these massive portfolios. We're going to get all that business. But what you're also going to do is go into all these banks that you're clients with and all your clients and start giving them a presentation about how they need to start trimming the fat on their bank lending portfolios because the FDIC is coming. Sure. And they're going to come in and they're going to take a look at all of these portfolios and they're going to start doing what they call mark to market. And I must have given 10 to 15 boardroom speeches to banks or bank presidents, their board in some cases.
So what do those speeches look like? Like when you get in there?
So you go in there and you say, listen, here I am. I'm not asking you for anything. I want to help you bring value. Because otherwise they're going to be like, who are you? Just another broker that wants business from us. And brokers don't call us. Why are you calling us? It's because we have a distressed asset proposition for you and we have a note sale opportunity as well. We just want to do a free evaluation of your balance sheet, all your active loans, troubled ones and untroubled ones. And we did. We took a look at them and said, okay, well, just so you know, home lots, vacant lots, we're selling for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a lot. They're giving them away for $4,000 a lot right now. Just you've got about 600 acres of lots. And as we see here, it looks like your guarantor is a foreign national, doesn't even live in the country. So pretty sure when the state or the FDIC comes in and takes a look and says, okay, you have to reappraise everything and reevaluate, they're going to ding you in that. We should probably sell that now. We're good. I literally got laughed out of 2 boardrooms and ask kindly, like, okay, thanks so much, pat on the head, I appreciate your time, goodbye. 3 months later, the phone is ringing off the hook. We need you to come in the office and help us with these distressed assets.
Oh, wow.
The FDIC just came in and hammered us, and we have to lighten the load by like $10 million by next quarter.
Wow.
And so through brokerage, we were lucky to come back in and start selling assets and dumping assets, and then to investors and bringing investors in on stuff and loading them up. And I finally said, okay, stop. We've been digging out of this hole that we were in. Thankfully, wife and I back on our feet, paid off a lot of debts, dealing with some short sale headaches that we had to deal with on some personal projects we bought. But I turned around to some investors and I said, I'm done making you guys money.
Yeah.
Right. Next project that I bring you, I don't have any money because I'm still bailing myself out. You're going to give me some sweat equity on it. And they go, oh, yeah, absolutely. Sure. We should have asked sooner. I'm like,
yeah,
son of a gun. Okay. Yeah, keep bringing us deals. You're in. I'm like, great. So that was kind of the first foray into I got to diversify a little bit. So we did a couple of those. Banks would call me in and say, okay, we want you to list these assets. And I said, before I list them, tell me how much you want. Great. Full disclosure, here's an offer. Cash offer for that same property. Do not take it. Don't even look at it. You can give it to your board if you want. Put that aside. I will go out and bring you every fair market value offer I can, but just know that that deal is always sitting there waiting, and we will take you out. And we did that a couple of times and brought offers more expensive than that, but they all had financing and they all had, drag-alongs and all this stuff, and they just needed these off their balance sheet.
Right.
So eventually, the bank would call and say, is your cash offer still available? Yeah. How quickly can you close it? 30 days. It's yours.
And your cash offer was an investor that you already had on the table?
So I went to some people that I'd done some brokerage deals with and just becoming part of the community. They all knew me. We had mutual friends and this and that. And I said, you guys seem to be not skipping a beat during this whole thing. I got my you-know-what handed to me. Can you raise money? Like, oh, yeah, all day long. That's why I learned, and I tell this to a lot of young brokers, if you put a deal together, a lot of them don't, because they're like, well, then what do I do? The dog catching the fire truck. Well, what do I do after I caught the fire truck? There are literally hundreds of people, whether it's your uncle, your father, your cousin, the attorney down the street you don't know, Branson. If you put together a deal that makes sense, the money is there.
Right.
100%. You just got to have the confidence to put it together and sell people on it. But everybody wants to own real estate if they don't already. Lawyers, doctors, they all want to own a little piece of that.
Right.
But so we sold a bunch of distressed assets. We started buying. Then we started going with this group, buying more assets. And okay, so I'll buy them, get that fee, because I told my wife, we're going to get more than one source of income. Because right now, this brokerage thing was phenomenal income. I mean, hung the world. But when that one source got shut down, we're just middlemen. It disappeared. We're going to diversify in commercial real estate. So, okay, we'll buy the property, get a fee. I'll lease the property up because it was half empty. We'll get a fee. Who's going to manage the building? I'll get it. Oh, have you ever managed a building? Nope. I'll figure it out. All right. You manage the building. Great. We don't want to do that. We've got our day jobs. Perfect. I'll take care of that. And then it was, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And then eventually you just kind of ran out of those great distressed asset buys. Sure. And these aren't the kind of guys, and nor are we, that want to chase 4 caps. There's got to be some meat on the bone, especially if you're going to bring in some of your buddies as investors. There's got to be enough to go around. So, then using that pseudo brokerage world that I was kind of bouncing back and forth between the investor and all this stuff, is our first development project. I just had buyers that were like, we need a building. We want to own a building. We want to buy a building. Well, guys, it doesn't exist in Lake Mary with what you want, or Seminole County, especially at these distressed prices you've been so used to. No, we want to own. I'm like, it doesn't exist. This went on for a year. Then I get this other young lady broker called and said, I've got this client that's looking. I'm like, yeah, I know. He's been through 10 brokers looking for this, wants to buy.
Needle in a haystack.
And I finally called my other buddy back and I go, what if I build it for you? He goes, I'm in. I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand. We're building at current market pricing, not this distressed asset stuff that we've all seen going on. He's like, that's fine. I just want to own. I'm tired of renting. Call the gal back. Would your client buy? But this is probably going to be the number. Yeah. I'm like, okay. So there was dirt just sitting on International Parkway literally for decades. And when the market shut down, nobody wanted to build office. And this corner piece, you could do like a 40,000 square foot building. And I'm like, nope. You're going to sell it to me for this price, and I'm going to put 3 4,500 square foot buildings, keep it under 5,000, and you don't have to sprinkler the building. Saves me more money, right? And they said, done. We're just sitting on it. Take it. It was Colonial Properties. So we called a friend. Oh, my now partner, Dominic, we called a friend and said, hey, you're GC. You do Walmart stuff. Would you like to price this out? And he goes, well, not only would I like to price this out, but you said you had 3 buildings. Are they all sold? No, we have 1 left. I'll take it. Great. Like, have you guys ever done this before?
Nope.
No, we'll figure it out. All right. So we put up 3 buildings, and I said, well, guys, now that we're just sitting back waiting for this to be built, they're all pre-sold. They have a piece next to us with some retail on it. Have you ever done retail? Nope. But here's the deal. I'll tie it up, and if we could pre-lease it, we'll move forward. If we can't, I'll dump it. Bring it to market, instantly pre-lease half the building, yada, yada, same story. 1 more piece behind it. On the far side, 90,000 square foot tower mid-range you could put up there. And I said, nope, I'm going to stick with this for sale product because I know from my brokerage tentacles that are out there, there are a dozen doctors and CPAs that want to own. Right. So I'll build out this whole park. We did another 9 buildings there. I think the whole project was like 95,000 square feet, and it was like 1 building at a time. That's all the risk we wanted to take.
Yeah.
So I looked at Dominic because he was, he and I are the closest. And I said, Dom, we're going to do this full time. We're going to go all in on development. And of course, we'll invest if we see a good deal, but those are few and far between these days. And he's like, well, I've got my licenses and wealth management. And I said, okay, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it by myself. He goes, hold on.
He got a little FOMO.
Week later, maybe.
Yeah.
But a week later, he called and said, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. And I said, great. It's a hell of a lot more fun than just grinding away, right. Trading bonds and slinging real estate. So we did. And we started doing one project after the other. We do it differently. There are merchant developers who build and sell and build and sell. There are ones who take large institutional money. And we decided because of, his position and what I wanted to grow and the things I learned about from the crash was I don't want a job. Now, it is a job when you get going, and we're still grinding. I'm still trying to do some both brokerage deals early on, this 10, 15 years ago. But, we got guys. They've got all the money we need. They've got great day jobs. They say, how much of a check do you want? They give it to us. We give it back to them. Like, stop giving me the money back. We'll put it in the next project. Okay, fine. And there's no stress. Yeah. So we'll do a project. They're bite size. We'll do a 90,000 square footer, but it's multiple buildings, and we'll sell a big chunk of it to lower our basis. We'll do 12,000 square foot retail centers. We'll do 65,000 multiple buildings, all bite size. So we don't get in trouble. We don't have to over leverage, and we sure don't want to buy a job, right. i.e. I don't want to be doing financial reports and update calls with nervous investors and lenders and all this stuff. We use a lot of community banks, local, that all these guys know. They're great to work with. They work with us when we want to refi out, and we never get out over our skis. I think our average loan to value on our portfolio is like 60%. Mm-hmm. So you leave a lot of money in the project, but our mantra is we are here for cash flow.
Sure.
Cash flow, cash flow. And we take these, we build them, lease them up, property manage them, put them on the shelf. Do it again, another brick. So some people say, why are you going to do 3 projects? It takes the same amount of effort as doing one big one. Number one, I don't want to compete with the big boys. I'll never win.
Right.
And I don't want to have to sign those large institutional investors that I will work for. Right now, we don't work for anybody, and it's fun.
Right. And then you have the responsibility to continue.
Yeah. Just keep building. Exactly. And when you build and sell, okay, you're only as good as your last. You get a big chunk of change. It's great, but you got a whole staff. You got to keep them employed. So now you're racing out to go find your next deal. And that is a perfect business model. It's just not what we were looking for.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth@ioausa.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. So, in today's time, especially from an economic standpoint, we're in a very delicate balance right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's nothing like 2008. I don't think it will be, but
From your lips. From your lips.
Yeah. Hopefully. If you can have one thing that you would have done differently during that time, what would it have been?
Development, or are you talking brokerage?
Just in general, just from a business perspective, like during 2008, obviously, looking up and seeing what's going on would be a big thing. But if there was something that, you would have done differently, that maybe somebody in today's time would maybe be in the same position that you were in, what would that advice be?
So first, my wife thinks I read too much. And I probably a quarter of my day is spent reading macro analysis, whether it's financial markets, real estate, rags, cryptocurrencies, political stuff, what's shifting macro. And I think it's become an obsession for me. Mm-hmm. I know a little about a lot.
Right.
But that obsession comes from, I got burnt. My head was in the sand. We're crushing deals in 2008. I mean, what could go wrong? Making money, we'll get another deal tomorrow. But I wasn't paying attention that everything was being shut off. And so number one, I would be absorbing information from every direction, because it all does affect what's happening in the local economy. We sold a property. We don't sell properties. We keep them. We saw that the market was topping about a year ago. And so we said, let's take a look at our portfolio, and we're going to trim the weakest link. And so we built a project, sold it, did very well. But sure enough, there's no way they're getting those rents down there right now. And cap rates and interest rates have gone through the roof. We sold at the right time. So always have your head in a swivel, and paying attention to the macro will help. But there's other things that, a mantra, and I tell this to young brokers who come and talk to me. My kids know this backwards and forwards, is, the mantra of, live like you're poor and invest like you're rich.
Sure.
Just because you finally got that big commission check you've been waiting on, and you got 20, 30 grand coming in, doesn't mean you need to go spend it. Doesn't mean you need to be in that $3,000 apartment and wearing brand new clothes every day, going out to the bars and eating. You really should be taking, half and putting it into an emergency fund, and the other half invest it.
Right.
There's not a billionaire alive that doesn't say two things on their deathbed: I wish I spent more time with my family, and I wish I started sooner.
You're right.
So I would go back and tell the old me, who was on top of the world, killing it in the brokerage game before all that, you should be investing, not saving. Savings, as long as you have your emergency fund, savings fine to save. But with inflation, saving is just killing you.
Right.
Put money away. Put money away. Put money away in an investment. And it doesn't have to be your own project. Well, I don't have $100,000. It doesn't have to be. There are crowdfunding deals you can do. There's groups of, restaurant partners. There's other things. You can throw 10 grand in on a project just because you brought it to somebody. So there's a lot of things you can do that snowballs. I mean, my boys, the same way. It started out when they were in junior high, gave them the whole pitch. There's a deal that I jumped into. Not a project, but it's just a little crowdfund deal. I said, boys, come here. I made a little spreadsheet, and I said, if you got $100 for your birthday, if you put 50 in on this fund, and I just kind of paid them on myself just to give them the idea, $50 here, and then you go spend $50 on whatever you want. Well, Dad, I want these 2 video games. Okay, you're going to play them for 2 weeks and never play them again.
Right.
Yeah, but Dad, okay, go buy one video game, ask for the other video game for your birthday, put $50 over here, and watch it compound. Watch it gain interest. When a check comes in, I'm putting money in your account. And so they started to see this. Next thing you know, every time they get a Christmas check or something, they turn around and go, how much can I put this into the fund? Absolutely. Now they're in college, and they're like, Dad, I'm thinking I'm going to buy this stock. What do you think? And my answer always is, I'm not going to tell you. Do your own research. You give me your thesis as to why you want to invest in that stock or whatever. No meme coin stocks and none of this stuff. Let's not chase that. And they do that. Well, this is what I heard, and this is what I think is going to happen. Okay, here's my take. Thanks for putting your thesis together. But it's all about investing. Do it sooner.
Right.
Because when you're finally my age, if you start at the right time, you're going to realize, I don't have to work for this jerk over here. I can do my own thing. I've got money coming in. I've got investments that are growing, or I can cash it all out and put all that into a bigger investment. So That would be
So
my
how
advice.
pivotal is, because we talk about starting earlier and
Yeah.
getting started at a very early age. You started when you're in your late 20s. So how pivotal was
Early 20s.
early 20s. Was that for you in your career starting early into where you are today?
Vital. I started before LoopNet and CoStar. I remember walking into that office, and the people that I would call on the phone in the industry were, and respectfully, they were juggernauts, but they were 15, 20, 30 years older. And there was very, very few people that were young and coming in the market, because the market was coming off of like a downturn, a recession. The office vacancy rates in that market was like 15%. So it wasn't a sexy market. There were not a lot of young people walking into that market. I just fell into it, right? I'll figure it out. Stuff. I love real estate. Let's go. But yeah, so doing all of that, flipping through that property source book was a wake-up call. And I'm glad I started early, because I did it differently. I didn't go to big brokerage houses because I didn't know they even existed when I got into real estate. But I didn't go to all the broker networking events, partly because I was living in Lake Mary, which my wife introduced me to. That's where she grew up from, pulled me right out of Winter Park. So I lived in Lake Mary for 12 years. So we're up in Lake Mary, and it's okay. There's a NAIOP mixer, which at the time I didn't even know what NAIOP was, right? Downtown at 5. I'm not going to drive down there and fight traffic. Not to mention I got these little kids at home. I want to get home and I want to see these kids and hang with these kids and my beautiful wife. So I didn't go to so many of those. What I did was I ingrained myself in the community. I was a 28, 29-year-old Rotarian. I joined the Rotary Club. Mm-hmm. Again, everybody there was 15, 20 years, 70, 80 years old. But you know what? I went to all those meetings, and those guys were all involved heavily with Seminole County organizations and all this. So then I'd go to all the Seminole County government stuff, and then you're on the Business Journal panel about Seminole County. Next thing you know, you are the guy that knows about commercial real estate in Seminole County. And because I never went into those civic things, I was asked to sit on a few different nonprofit boards and all this stuff. You become known.
Sure.
And I never once went in there and say, hey, everybody, this is what I do. I mean, Rotary is not about that. It's about civil service and all this stuff. So it gets to a point where people like you because they see how hard you're working on your charities and things, your nonprofit and stuff like that. And they say, well, I need somebody to help me find an office. You got to use Miguel. You have to call him.
Right.
So people would call me. And this is when the whole business started snowballing and we really just started crushing it, is the phone would just start ringing. Hey, I need you to come list my property. Well, okay, I can do a presentation. No. Well, just come and list it. I'm like, okay, well, this is a $5 million property. Where'd you hear of me? Well, Steve Smith said I have to use you. You're the guy who knows everything. I'm like, who's Steve Smith? I've never even heard him. Well, his brother used you. And they said, and it was like one after the other. So because they said, you're a good guy, we see you in the community, and you're the only, there was no national firms farming that market. At the time, Colonial Properties was leasing their own office buildings. Eventually, CBRE and those guys took over. But I wasn't going after that corporate business. I was going after everything else. And so, yeah, it got to the point where you get 15 people on your roster. Everybody in the community knows you. They ask you to speak at all these different events on brokerage stuff, on state of the market, and, $250 million worth of sales out of little old Lake Mary, Sanford, Seminole County. People are like, how the hell did you do that? Well, nobody pays attention up there unless they're called in from, corporate lead, somebody's reloading to the corporate. And I don't even get in the middle of that, but I know what those deals are. And it's funny, and I'm, please redirect, but I would go into listing appointments and they would call and say, we want you to come do a listing appointment. I said, an appointment, or you want to give me the listing? I'm like, no, an appointment. I said, great. You have other people coming in? Well, we really want you, but we need to interview some other big brokerage houses. We are a large firm. Our corporate offices use Cushman or whoever the case was in the past. I said, great. When? This date. I said, fine. I'll come the next day. I want to come after they give their pitch. Okay, whatever. So I will walk in the door. And I did this a few times. So I'm big deal. So I'm like, I'm either not going to get this anyway, or this is going to work like a charm. And I would come in, And they would be like, okay, well, where's your pitch deck? I'm like, there's a table over there with like 4-inch thick documents. And I said, I have a business card. Would that make you feel better?
Right.
No. Well, what's going on? I said, let's talk about you for a minute. And you talk about them. What's everybody's favorite topic of conversation? Is talking about themselves. And so you just relax them and warm them up. And then you say, okay, this is the project you're looking at. I bet you all those books over there have every comp you've gotten out of CoStar or whatever their entire research team had. And I didn't have any of this stuff, right? They have a huge research team. I don't make colorful books. But here's what I know. You're looking at this particular asset. You want us to do this. I know that Steve Jones bought that building and he paid this much money. Why? Because I sold it to him. These 7 buildings over here, those have all leased up over the last year and a half. These are the rates that they were getting because of XYZ. I think this building's going to get a little bit more because of these reasons. Now, this one over here, this one was sold to, Susan, and this one, stop, you're hired. Yeah. I know this market inside and out. I know all the players in this market. Right. I'm not just giving you comps out of a research report.
Yeah.
And that was really the secret to my brokerage world and brokerage success at the time. And I still dabble in brokerage. We usually outsource most of like our retail stuff to other firms. We've got JLL and some other guys that have done some stuff because I'm not in that world. I'm not playing around in that. Who's new coming in? But old clients still call and say, no, we want you on this large track, or we want you in this building. All right. I don't have a marketing marketing giant machine behind me, but we'll do it.
Right.
Got you.
I tell people a lot of times in this industry, especially the younger guys, this industry is two-parted. You've got to know the market, you've got to know your product, and then you've got to be known.
Yeah.
And I think that's really hard, especially, for young brokers. When I started at Marcus and Millichap, I mean, you're in a machine, right? You don't,
100%.
I was kind of like you. I didn't know, but I'll figure it out. Yep. Right. And you've got, over 2,000 agents across the world. And this particular owner has been called on 50 times. And it's like,
who your buddy right next to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, who are you? Right. And so I think that's a very strategic approach. I tell young brokers, especially if they're doing like leasing or, they're trying to, they're early in their career, the first year, and they're trying to do investment sales on a $10 million building. It's like, people have to know who you are. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think the community level aspect is a great approach because while you're building your brand, right, you're also investing into the community, which then offers fruits in different areas of life for sure.
Bingo.
So it's very unique how that kind of works. And I always tell people, like, the first thing you do is like, if you call on a piece of property and you introduce yourself, people are probably going to Google your name or they're going to ask around. They're going to do one or two things.
Yeah, 100%.
And so if they can ask around and don't hear anything, and then they go on Google and they don't find anything, you're probably not get the...
God bless those young men from Northwestern Mutual that call you. Hello, sir. I'd like to manage all of your money. Right. And they're like right out of college, like, son, thanks for the call. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Tell me your boss's boss's boss to call and we'll have a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this industry is very relational driven.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're competing with other developers or other brokers or whatever, it's still heavy leverage on the relationship. And
100%.
I think even in today's time, we do a lot of design build work, and design build is becoming a very, massive kind of movement, I would say, especially in the industry, because that collaboration between the relational portion, mm-hmm. even if it's not a strict design build contract, the importance of everybody having that relationship up front to be able to allow the
Sure.
process from a development perspective go a lot smoother. So that's my 2 cents.
No, it does. It does. We've got to make the leap into a full design build but I've got some folks. I mean, we work with Clark Stranahan and Marlon. We work with great guys over at Kimley Horn, Brent Lenzen. Brent has been with me since he was a junior to some other guys. We work with Chad Moorhead as well because their firm is dialed in on Seminole County, but it's relationship driven. Sure. And you watch them work. When there's a roadblock, they say, enough of this, I'm going up to this guy at the top, and they take care of it.
Right.
And it is a beautiful thing to watch. So
right.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And there's a million of those expressions out there,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Still need to know a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap this episode up.
All
We're
right.
going to get into a little bit more development perspective. So Beyond the Blueprint, it's been great episode 1 with Miguel De Arcos. Make sure you join us next time for part 2. Thanks. See you soon.